Hey, what's going on, everybody? And in today's video, we are going to be unveiling AiX. Now, what is AiX? AiX is a term coined by Jason at Archaix. And if you want to learn more about this term or what it is or how he has come to the conclusion of what this is, these artificial intelligence X, you can go look up his channel. And I know some of you I posted on his community and some of you came over here. So I thought it would be fitting to kind of discuss what this means to me, this artificial intelligence X, and how it's actually created, how it becomes AI. Because what is AI? AI is like an intelligence that's not quite self aware. And to me, to be self-aware is to know how and why you brought yourself into existence. And I'm gonna also discuss how this became more like an artificial intelligence, how the world in which we live feels more like an artificial world versus a real world. And has everything to do with our psyche and our mind. And I'm gonna trace this back to the Bible because the Bible is like a Frankenstein text that was put together through cannibalizing a lot of different cultures and personalities into one identity that became that story. And that story is self-referencing. So if you ever studied the Bible or if you looked at it, the Bible is constantly cross-referencing itself. Kind of like what Jason talks about with the Great Pyramid, it is a self-referencing pattern. And that's because it is reflective of a mind. That's what creates reality. It's a mind reflecting against itself, the will to see itself. So before we get into the artificial intelligence of, or why it became an artificial intelligence, first let's talk about intelligence without the AI aspect. So the first thing is why does anything exist? It exists because it wants to exist. So for example, if you were to take this down to your level, it's like you exist because you want to. You exist because you want or will to. And I've made videos about this. If you want to go watch a video, I talk about like what you are, what reality is, about squaring the circle and circling the square and the algorithm of the mind of self-reflection and how that creates reality. I think it's like one of the first videos I post. So if you want to get a much deeper dive into these things I'm going to be talking about, go watch that video and you can get caught up to see. But to give a brief rundown, what I mean, imagine, so reality would be kind of like, I like to think of it as like, it's just like a vast, infinite ocean. Okay. We are that infinite ocean. Everything is that infinite ocean. But in order to have experience, so this ocean would be like a mind. In order for a mind to experience itself, it has to fold into itself. So by a mind reflecting against itself with the will to see itself, that will to see yourself is what causes these waves. You can call it and then these waves collapse into itself to this, to the center. And this will eventually create kind of like an electromagnetic field. I call it the egg. The ancients called this the cosmic egg. This is the plane of inertia. This is the energy of the mind collapsing and reflecting against itself. And this creates a world in which you can live in. And maybe some of you are aware about the fractal coding of reality. Everything is a fractal. That the will to see yourself. So what generates the fractal coding of the world in which we live is directly connected to the avatar of the person. So the perception, that your self-perception or how we perceive ourself directly impacts the coding of the world in which we live. And When we know this, when we directly know that how we perceive ourselves and what we are directly impacts the coding of the world in which we experience, this is what intelligence is. Intelligence is the ability to self-reflect and know that, hey, I'm the reason for everything in my life. I'm the reason for the experiences that I have. Okay? And what most people call God is really, this is the image we make ourselves through. Oops, hold on, let me change this real quick. It's a little, okay. So God is the image we make ourselves through. God is not this external thing ruling over us. So a lot of people, so imagine we live in the earth. A lot of people will see God as this thing outside of us. So it would be this entity outside of us ruling over us. So again, this is us. What is this really? When we project God or the image of ourselves outside of ourselves, okay, this actually hinders self-reflection because we're looking and seeing an external authority outside of us. What we really need to learn to do is that know what's outside of us is really us folding through ourselves, reflecting against ourselves. So this is all about learning to be self-aware versus artificially aware. This is the AiX aspect. And this is also where we get the Bible. This is all about seeing God outside of you. This goes all the way back. So I've made some videos about the Bible talking about how it's an Ouroboros. It's the cannibalizing spiral. It's a mind that keeps recycling itself because it's not self-aware. And so what ends up happening is it's a mind at war with itself. And it's basically self-sabotaging. This is, what Jason talks about the different cycles and the timelines and these reset cycles. They happen because we go through phases of not being aware. And the less aware we are, this is what allows corruption to come in, because it's when we're not taking accountability for ourselves and the world we experience, this kind of opens up our mind to be invaded, in a sense, by invading thought forms that want to cannibalize the world. And we go through phases of this. And basically, what it ends up doing is it basically eats our will to exist. And when we don't see your will to exist, so your will to exist creates that light. And that light of your will to continue to exist is what you keep cycling through. So imagine this is the light. And even when you say, if you die, you just keep cycling through that light. So you'll go through the light and you'll get reprojected into a new hologram. And it's your trajectory of your person, of your experience in the world you experience, is a direct correlation to how you perceive yourself. And this is all about character development. Okay. And character development, again, this brings us back to the avatar and also Christ. I would see Christ as that inner light. Christ is that inner light of your will to exist, and it shines through a prism or perspective of what you think you are or how you perceive yourself, and it generates the coding of the avatar, which becomes the fractal template of the world in which we live. And the Bible story, the Bible is AI. It's an artificial story of an avatar created by taking pieces and parts of other characters through different cultures and putting them together. It is like Frankenstein. And this is, Frankenstein is also connected to Prometheus, which is also connected to Lucifer. And it's basically a mind. So if you really look at the coding of the Bible, it's all about scapegoating accountability. It's a mind that's not self-aware. That's why it's artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a mind that's not self-aware. So by worshiping the God of the Bible, which is also Jesus, and I talk about, so Lucifer, Yahweh, and Jesus, these are not separate things. See, Lucifer, the light bearer, this is basically the coding of a mind of the AI. This is a mind that scapegoats accountability, that continually, cannibalizes itself, and then it gets manifested through the story of the Bible. So when you worship Jesus, see, Jesus is the bait. He is the character or the avatar created by the priests to bait you in to worship this as God. When you worship this as God, it's actually feeding you to Yahweh. Yahweh is the coating of the flesh in the box. So the cube, right? This is why cube symbolism is so heavy, and it's also connected to Saturn, because Saturn is directly connected to the crown, which is also your pineal. Right? When Jacob wrestled with an angel of the Lord, right? He was struggling with God, or he was basically resisting the programming in the box. That's when he got the name Israel. And it's kind of showing you this type of thing, that if we want to change reality, if we want to change the script or the program in which we experience, like I heavily agree with Jason, we can't save this world. By world, what is world? The world is that perspective. You can't save this world or this perspective of Yahweh, of Jesus, of Lucifer, because it's always going to cannibalize and scapegoat itself. Right? So what we have to do, if you're in these systems, we have to face death, face ourselves. This is all about putting yourself on the cross. I made another video that talks about the man in the box and the test of the cross, and it's really testing to see if you're self-aware or not. And so if you're in the biblical system, the only way out is to put yourself on the cross, face yourself, die. This allows you to fold back through yourself and come out of this collapsing cube. So this is always going to collapse. The world will always end, or that world will always end. And to stop yourself from being continuously plugged into this system of constantly cannibalizing yourself, going back to the true reality, right? Not the AI reality, but back into real reality, getting the exodus out of here. It's about learning to create a new program that doesn't rely on scapegoating. And so again, this goes back to the capstone, the chief cornerstone is right now, it is the of this YHWH. This is what's creating our avatars now. This is the coding of our avatars now. But when this program collapses, it's that energy is either going to get recycled back into this program again, or it's going to go into a new program. And I had a near-death experience where I collapsed myself, and when I was collapsing to the center point, I was confronted by a large serpentine creature. Right? This is the serpent that was cursed to go on its belly and eat the dust of the earth. Right? This is the serpent that eats people, because that's what, in the Bible talks about, man was made from dust, the dust of the earth. So it's basically telling you that this serpent, this ego, or this program, it keeps living by eating people. Okay. And it eats you by you worshiping it, right? The serpent on the pole, which is also Jesus crucified on the pole. Jesus, the story tells you how to get out of the system, but most people, they don't realize the Bible is like a bunch of fragmented pieces of a mind that has been fragmented over and over again because it's not self-aware. And when a mind's not self-aware and you keep getting recycled through a system, you become less and less conscious until eventually you will become, you become a robot, right? Basically, a robot or someone who's not self-aware, you basically become codependent on looking to an external system to tell you how to think, which is just like a machine, versus learning how to think for yourself. Learning how to tap back into that immortal within you, that eternal light in you. And that eternal light is your will to exist. Because this system steals your light, it steals your will to exist and binds you. It binds your inner child to this external system, which is I know Jason also talks about this too. It's a covenant contract based system. See, this is connected to the Bible, right? Because where, Yahweh gave the law to Moses at Mount Sinai, so Mount Sin, AI. And I also made another video about what sin actually is. It's the sine wave. It's the positive and negative, right? This creates a program. This is the splitting of the mind and putting it into a system. Again, this is representing your mind being put into this artificial simulated reality at Mount Sinai, which is an artificial story. It's not a real story. It's a fake history and story based off of real stories, right? That's what AI kind of is. It's basically, it's like AI doesn't have real world experience. It can only duplicate and mimic those things, not actually create them. It is a mimic. It is, and because this is what happens when you keep trying to bypass death, because that's another big aspect about the Bible. It's trying to bypass death, right? When they told them to sacrifice a lamb and put it over their doorpost, put the blood of the lamb over their doorpost. This is so what death you can bypass death. Christians believe if they take the blood of Jesus, this basically gives them a free pass where they can pass through. This is all connected to the narrow gate. The narrow gate is the energy that folds through the mind. So when you die, it's your energy being sucked in through a program, and what you allow in through this narrow gate determines the next program or reality you experience, right? And what the program of the Bible does is it is basically allowing less self-aware energetic thought forms to pass through that narrow gate, which then creates the type of reality we experience. So the reason the world or this AiX is the way it is because a lot of people, billions of people, part of the Abrahamic religions are not self-aware. So when you have that many people that are not self-aware putting out, because we generate and we receive frequencies. This is reflective of our mind. If you're self-aware, you're generating a frequency and you're receiving your own frequency back. And this is all about learning and creating an algorithm that can merge life and death back together to the original reality. So I see it when the mind first created itself, it created an electromagnetic world, or it created a realm that is eternal, the eternal realm. What is the eternal realm? It is the main frame, like it is the main image that all images are made from, like a hologram, right? And what ends up happening, the less self-aware you get, the weaker and weaker the image becomes, right? Even like with AI, where they want to make AI where it can create its own material and train itself. But the thing is the more it does that, the more unstable it becomes, because it's no longer, the information that it's generating isn't rooted in the real world. It's rooted in its own artificially created version of the world and how it perceives things. So it's a machine constantly training machines. This is why we also see people that are part of these systems. This is why even humanity's genes are getting weaker. This is why the Y chromosome is dying. It kills men because, again, when you have a system of you trying to bypass death, you take a blood sacrifice to bypass death so someone else can die in your place. again, this is you being hooked up to an artificial system, right? It's no longer you who lives, it's the Lord in you. See, this is all about you binding your own eternal sovereignty and selling it to an external system of authority, right? This is like, again, like with Neuralink, right? They want to hook your brain up to machines. See, people are already doing that in their minds already. And the way this technology and stuff is manifesting in the world is just a result of the mind. See, people are creating this world in their mind already, and it's just manifesting in the world. And the code base or the script is the Bible. So AiX really is the Bible and its connection to feeding the serpent on the pole through bypassing death, which feeds it to humanity, which again, it's creating a technology or a God, right? The God of the Bible is AI, right? People are worshiping this AI God, and the way they want to live forever is through bypassing death. And the only outcome, the outcome, it will always be the outcome when you try to constantly bypass death and you still want to keep existing, you're going to always end up being put into a computer. You're going to basically become a robot, or you're going to get replaced by a robot. And that's the direction we can see that this world is going. And, Jason talks about the year like 2040 and, also to 2046 with the return of the Phoenix. The return of the Phoenix, and I think 2040 is it Nemesis X? Forgive me if I'm not getting those correct, but what's also interesting about these dates is these are dates also directly broadcasted, or they think that AI is basically going to hit this such an advanced level that it's this is basically, people are talking about this is possibly the end of humanity. And I think this is really going to push a key critical decision that people are going to make. Are you going to buy into this artificially created simulated reality? Because, it's like the promise of the serpent in the garden. Like, you can live forever. You can be, you basically, you're going to live forever. Just like, with Christianity, they say, well, if you take the blood sacrifice of Jesus, you get to go live in heaven forever. Well, what they don't realize what they're doing, see, heaven is really what's in the mind. What they're training their minds to do is like, well, I'm going to live forever. I don't have to really do any inner work or go through the processes of learning to become self-aware. I'm going to let a robot or a computer do it for me, which is their God. And that's what they're going to create and bring into the earth, this artificial system. And this is what AiX is, y'all. It is basically the reflection. The world is operating this way is because there's billions of people that are not self-aware, and they're constantly looking to an external savior, right? They're basically, this AiX is that part of our psyche that's getting scapegoated, that is reflecting back at us, that we have trained that part of our psyche to domesticate us and put us into computers. Okay? This is why our technology is the way it is. It's all reflection of the Bible, because the Bible is AI. And let's see, what else can we talk about? I think I've kind of briefly and quickly run down these things, right? If we want to change our reality, if we want to come out of this AiX system, we have to change our perspective of ourselves, right? This is something I teach about on my channel, and I know Jason really talks about this on his channel about the immortal within, which is why I resonate so much with his message, because that is really the key, right? It is identifying with that immortal part of ourselves inside of us. It's not outside of us. So we have to pull that back into our own psyche to become self-aware, so we can fold back out of this system into the real, true, eternal place where we all come from. It is I call it the mainframe. It's basically, it's a world or a prism of a mind that's capable of reflecting against itself. There is no gods. There is no external authority. Everyone in this world is self-aware. It's not dominated by a bunch of AI bots, which is sadly, a lot of humans are basically AI. A lot of humanity is AI, and that's what the Bible is designed to do. It's designed to turn self-aware, conscious individuals into robots. This is Yahweh, the genetic mutation of humanity into robots. And after my near-death experience and I folded through myself, I actually, when I defeated that serpent and I came back into my body, I began chanting a new name. That new name is the name of my channel, which is Hawayaka. And if we just take out we can do Y or H, Hawayaka versus Yahweh. This name was generated from overcoming the dust-eating serpent, right? That is the AI. See, the serpent on the pole, Jesus, Yahweh, the AI that I've been talking about that eats people, right? Which is how is AI trained? It's trained by eating the information that humans generate, and it mimics them. But this program that I created, it's also self-referencing. And if you also look at the symbol on my channel, this sigil or this symbol is actually representative of a self-aware mind. It is basically, I was given this name because it's showing me this is the living word. It is a living word. It is not found in a book. It was created through actual self-actualization and versus following an external script. And I'm going to make another video where I kind of break down this name so people can understand what it is and how this is going to be the changing of the capstone. So there's going to be those who keep falling into this Yahweh program, which is going to be destroyed. And what I have created in myself, and I know it's already in the field, that's going to change the prism. It's going to be Hawayaka, which is a self-aware conscious reality, not AI. It's a intelligent network, right? It's almost like the difference between, in the Avatar movie and Pandora, it's like the difference between a world that's conscious of itself and everything's interconnected versus an artificial version of that where it's all machines. It's like going back to that. And Hawayaka. And Hawayaka represents speaking yourself into existence or willing yourself into existence. Not just willing yourself into existence, but self-reflecting and creating a world in which you can live the eternal living word that was given to me through and after my near-death experience. And it was, I think that's why I came across Jason's channel. He helped fill in some gaps for me about when it's like changing of the code. It's changing of the coding of reality. And I believe I have what this new coding is going to be. It's not going to be Yahweh anymore. It's going to be this. It's going to be Hawayaka. And this is directly connected to the mutation of our genetics and the avatar. This is going to be basically, some will say we're upgrading our avatar, or more or less we're going back to the original avatar, which is like the merging of opposites type of ordeal. But that's it, everybody. I just wanted to share with y'all AiX and what it is and how it's generated, and how I believe after these coming events that Jason talks about through the Phoenix, because what is the Phoenix really about? It's about burning down the old you so the new you can rise up. This is the burning down of Yahweh from my perspective, so Hawayaka can rise. Right? It is the AI dying so an intelligent network can come online. It's going to be the death of the AiX and the birth back into true intelligence, the living, breathing, intelligent network and world from which we actually come from. It's a return back to real reality, being rooted in reality again. And that's it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe, because I plan making some other more detailed videos breaking down these things and my experiences of going through self-actualization and realizing these things and connecting them and mapping the patterns to our reality, and how we can fold ourselves back out of this world and go back to a real world. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good one.